In business today, three things to know. First, economy on track. Housing and manufacturing numbers suggest the U.S. has turned things around after a slow start to the year. Then, coup in Thailand. The economy for the Southeast Asian country is in shambles and tourism has collapsed. Can the military restore confidence and security? And from counting cards to developing winning strategies for businesses, one author tells us how he has done both. Arise Exchange starts now. Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Schmertz. Spring may have finally sprung for the economy. April and May numbers rebounding from a dismal first quarter. Existing home sales, the big deal today. For the first time in 2014, they are up. Sales rose 1.3% from March to a seasonally adjusted 4.65 million homes. That number, according to the National Association of Realtors. With that said, the pace is still off the 2013 gains, and we'll talk in a moment about housing with our guest from IHS Global Insight. U.S. manufacturing surged to a three-month high in May. The Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI, rose to 56.2 compared to 55.4 in April. Anything above 50 is a good number. But one soft spot, the number of Americans filing weekly claims for unemployment benefits rose by 28,000 to 326,000. The weekly number is less important than the four-week moving average, which also showed signs of weakness. The markets, meantime, had little reaction. A quiet day on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 10 points to 16,543. The S&P 500 closing up about 4.5, and the Nasdaq up 22 and change to 41.54. To commodities, gold closing at $12.94.90 an ounce, and oil pulling back by 26 cents. For more now on the housing numbers, we're joined by Patrick Newport, U.S. economist from IHS Global Insight, joins us from Boston. Patrick, welcome to Arise Exchange.
Good afternoon.
So what do you make of these housing numbers? We're starting to see a turnaround. Is this because of the softness that we had in the first quarter due to weather? Is that prediction actually coming true here?
Well, the numbers have been down recently. These are not great numbers. These are just better numbers that we've seen the past 2 or 3 months. But they're well, which is good news in itself. Sales have been dropping, not so much because of the weather, but it's more a matter of investors dropping out of the housing market, and also because of a sharp change in affordability. It's becoming more expensive to buy a home. But I think we turned the corner, and going forward, I think we should see existing home sales not drop any further and probably move up over the course of the year.
You make a very interesting point there. The criticism of this sort of housing recovery has always been that it's not individuals buying homes or families, it is investor groups, and that they're coming out of the market now, that the market had nowhere to go but down.
Right. So if you take away the investors, if you just look at the people who are buying homes to live in, that portion of the market has actually probably been flat. It hasn't dropped as much. So I'm not too worried about the housing market. What's troubling about the housing market is it's just taking so long to recover. It's healing, but we thought that the healing process would be far more advanced now than it has, and that's not good news for the economy, because housing is pivotal to getting the economy growing faster.
Do you think that the predictions that because we were keeping people in their homes and sort of holding off on foreclosures, that the prediction that would cause a much slower housing recovery is sort of coming into play here?
Well, the reason it's taking housing so long to recover, it's complicated. It's many things. That may be one factor. But I think the bigger factor is that credit is still tight, and that construction costs are still going up, and that builders just don't have much of an incentive to ramp up and starts because their profit margins haven't improved all that much. And it's a bit frustrating. The frustrating is that it's taking so long to get back to normal. We thought we would get back to normal maybe sometime in the middle of next year. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 more years.
Yeah, it's certainly a slow slog here. You know, we're seeing mortgage rates fall. They fell to 4.14%, which is the lowest rate since October. 2 questions. Why are those interest rates still coming down? And And the second is, do you think that the government's decision to sort of ease the pipeline with the banks on issuing mortgages and changing the rules a little bit may be going to help the recovery of the housing market in the second quarter?
Well, the first question, they're probably dropping for the wrong reasons. For the wrong reasons, they're dropping because the economy's hit a soft patch. It may be related partly to the situation in the Ukraine. Whenever you have tensions, international tensions, you have a flight to the dollar. So if mortgage rates go down, because that's why long-term rates are down, and that's why mortgage rates are down. If they drop for that reason, that's not good news for the housing market because it just means that there's more uncertainty out there, and that's not good news. The easing the easing up on credit will help a little bit. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a game changer.
Okay, Patrick Newport, U.S. economist with IHS Global Insight from Boston. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
The military in Thailand has made official what everyone already knew. It pulled off a coup this week, displacing the elected government. Military leaders say the country needs stability and political reform. Thailand's economy has been in a tailspin for months now, in part due to political unrest, and tourism, a key to the economy, is taking a hit. Though with a coup every few years, it's pretty much business as usual. Brian Jacobsen, who covers emerging markets with Wells Fargo Funds Management, is on the phone now. Brian, welcome back to Horace Exchange. Always good to get your insight on this.
Oh, thank you very much for having me back.
So what is going on in Thailand? The military has had a coup 18 times since the 1930s or so. So does this have a specific impact on Thailand economy and, frankly, the rest of the region? Or is this going to be sort of a stabilizing effect?
In an odd way, this could actually be somewhat stabilizing for Thailand. And as you pointed out, tourism is very important to the Thai economy. The reason why this might be stabilizing is that even though we don't like to see coups, they are going to have martial law in the sense that it is going to be a little bit more stable, perhaps a little bit more peace. They're trying to make sure that there isn't a lot of protesting. And this is not exactly peak season for tourism there. So hopefully they'll be able to work things out to maintain the peace before the important winter holiday season hits.
You know, Brian, so it sounds like it was an off-season coup.
You know, I don't want to say that they were trying to be somewhat opportunistic about it, but it does kind of appear that way. It's certainly better than, let's say, the last time that they had a coup back in 2006, which was around September when that happened, and that took a little bit bigger toll on the economy than what I think this one probably will.
Well, the economy really has, as we mentioned, has really weakened over the past 8 months or so because of all the political unrest. So your point at the beginning may be well taken here that in this case, the coup may be looked as a stabilizing factor.
And it's entirely possible that when they emerge from this, because I think that eventually they will, it's probably going to take a little bit of intervention from some outside forces, let's say the United States, considering Thailand is one of our allies. Perhaps they can help broker some sort of deal. But, you know, going back to the 1930s, Thailand was established as a constitutional monarchy, and over the years, they've effectively gone back to using some form of soft authoritarianism. And they really need to, I think, embrace more of a democratic or a republic model like the rest of the developing world is really doing.
And finally, Brian, do you expect tourism to sort of recover now in Thailand?
It should, although it probably won't for a little while here. Interesting thing about a lot of the tourist activity, when I've spoken to a few of the tourist agencies that actually conduct some of the tours, oftentimes Thailand isn't, it's part of the destination, so it's almost like part of a broader regional tour of various groups, and so perhaps the hit to tourism is going to be somewhat muted now. It's off-season, and perhaps if they maintain some of the peace, there isn't a lot of rioting, we should see very little effect on the tourist activity, hopefully.
Yeah, it's a good point because Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, all part of packages that people go to. Brian Jacobsen, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, big business looks to the Supreme Court for key rulings this term and bringing down the House, how one man went from counting cards to helping businesses succeed. You're watching Horace Exchange.
I think news does make people put things in black and white terms, just so that they have a dividing line between what their viewers like and dislike.
When they see a person of color, they either think that they're not going to do anything, they're either on drugs or they got pregnant at an early age, and I just want to say that that's not true.
It tends to reflect more the interests of the upper income people and the upper income interests.
Horace News, every culture, every angle.
And welcome back to Horace Exchange. It's shaping up as an important year at the U.S. Supreme Court for businesses. Many of the most anticipated rulings are high-stakes business cases. To talk more about what some of these Supreme Court decisions may mean is Horace Cooper, Senior Fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research. He joins us on the phone from Honolulu, Hawaii. Horace, I understand you're opening up the Arise Bureau in Hawaii.
Well, sign me up. I already have the Hawaiian T-shirt to match.
We'll join you over there. All right, let's start with one of the big cases for TV viewers and digital media viewers, this Aereo case. Aereo is a service owned by Barry Diller that retransmits free network television. Those network television operations suing Aereo over trademark and copyright infringement. Talk to us about that case.
This is a big case. I mean, this is really going to be about whether or not the Supreme Court allows the kind of innovation and dynamic creativity to go forward. There is really no one who thinks that we're not one day going to pick all of our video material via the web. We may get it through a company like Netflix that no longer just does movies, but they may also do television, broadcast big events, sports, etc. Like the big Sony Betamax case.
I was about to say that.
The Supreme Court allowed, in a narrow 5-4 decision, the idea that you could record things and view them for later. That revolutionized television, and it is ironic that now Sony, which wanted to make this product, is now on the same side as the Motion Picture Association in saying, hey, let's not let these new dynamic technologies get away from us.
And I got to tell you, this ultimately helps the movie studios and the television stations because they need their content seen. And if they continue to control where it's seen, I can't see how that's good for them.
I can't see how it's good for them, and I will tell you this. I really think it's probably a close call. It's not going to be an ideological case on this one, but I think that Congress is probably going to respond. You know, a lot of times we are unaware of the backstory, and the backstory is this. The HD signal that many of these programs are coming on was given as a gift from the taxpayers to the
We own the airwaves.
so they can make them.
That's right. We own the airwaves. All right, let's move over to Hobby Lobby. They're suing over the Affordable Care Act, and as I understand, over birth control. Hobby Lobby, of course, owned and controlled by some religious individuals who want a say over the health care they offer.
This is another big case, and it's actually the intersection of business and faith. This will be an opportunity for the court to opine as to whether or not you forfeit your rights of religious expression if you organize yourself in a corporate fashion. I imagine that this case, if it didn't involve contraception and other hot-button issues associated with sexual reproduction, this would be probably an 8-1 or 9-0 case. But because of that, this is likely going to be a ruling written either by Kennedy or Roberts, narrow, and it is going to, I predict, allow Hobby Lobby to have the right to exercise religious beliefs, and that the government has failed to come up with a narrow and unlimited and burdening way of getting the kinds of things that they want organizations to do to comply with the Affordable Care Act.
Okay, Horace Cooper, don't have too much of a good time in Hawaii.
I'm going to try.
Thank you. We'll see you when you come back east. Time now for our business ticker, stories making news around the world. It's the latest sign of a widening crackdown on money laundering. U.S. regulators are investigating whether Charles Schwab and Merrill Lynch Brokerage, a unit of Bank of America, are doing enough to police their clients' connections to drug money. The probes are part of a sweep by the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, to determine if red flags were missed that could indicate attempts to move money from drug trafficking and other crimes into the financial system. And the billionaire owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban, got himself into trouble after running off at the mouth over the Donald Sterling incident. Sterling has been banned following racist remarks he made. While addressing the ban of Sterling, who owns the Los Angeles Clippers, Cuban acknowledged he is bigoted in a lot of different ways himself and was trying to make the point that everyone has prejudices. But that's when Cuban dug himself into a pretty deep hole. Here's what he had to say.
If I see a black kid in a hoodie and it's late at night, I'm walking to the other side of the street. And if on that side of the street there's a guy that has tattoos all over his face, white guy, bald head, tattoos everywhere. I'm walking back to the other side of the street. And the list goes on of stereotypes that we all live up to and are fearful of.
So, what makes you cross the street? We decided to ask some of our newsroom staff. Take a listen.
I would cross the street if I saw a snake. I don't care what size it is. I don't care if it's small, skinny.
Nothing compares to a New York City rat. They're not afraid.
I would cross the street for my safety. If I saw an ex-girlfriend.
If I saw a dog without a leash, I'd cross the street.
If I saw a speeding motorcycle coming down the block.
Well, if I saw Idris Elba, I would cross the street to get to him, but not to get away.
I am far too lazy to cross the street.
I would cross the street for my safety if I saw a cicada.
Any of my elementary school teachers.
Bill O'Reilly.
I would cross the street for my safety if I saw a Red Sox player.
Chad has a whole list there. Ex-girlfriends, elementary school teachers. Actor Ben Affleck recently made headlines in Las Vegas when he was banned for life from a casino for counting cards. It's a skill that Jeff Ma knows all too well. As a member of a blackjack team while studying at MIT, his group took Vegas for millions. His real-life story inspired the best-selling book Bringing Down the House, followed by a Hollywood movie. More than 10 years later, Ma is turning card counting into a winning business strategy, and he has written a new book, House Advantage, Playing the Odds to Win Big Business. Jeffrey Ma joins us now. Hello, Jeffrey.
Hey, how are you?
Joining us, I believe, from San Francisco. Let me first ask you about the Ben Affleck question, making a lot of news. Does he have a gambling problem, or is he simply really good?
Well, I mean, I don't know if he has a gambling problem or not, but I mean, the fact that he got thrown out of a casino for card counting means nothing about him having a gambling problem. In fact, it probably means the opposite. He's trying to gain an advantage over the casino so he can win money, which is what I would consider the opposite of a gambling problem.
Let's talk about your background for a little bit, because I read Bringing Down the House, and it's just a terrific story. It's sort of an adventure that you guys were going on this card counting, which, by the way, is legal. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that maybe gave you a little bit of a foundation for what you did later in life?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of lessons that we learned from the card counting days in terms of how to use data. I mean, what I always say is that card counting was the ultimate kind of big data before big data was even a term. You're using math and data and analytics to make better decisions in the casino and essentially beat the casino. But there were certainly other lessons that we learned in our card counting with teamwork and how hard it is, you know, the dedication and planning and all that kind of stuff. That really has been the foundation of what I've done in the rest of my life.
And you made about $1 million playing blackjack. Let me ask you about that teamwork. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a key part that I get the sense that is missing in business today, sort of camaraderie, teamwork, and even ethics, being honest among your business partners.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the things that I always talk about as a quality that we looked for in people that we played blackjack with was this idea of trust and integrity. I mean, imagine you're going to hand someone $100,000 in cash and tell them to win you some money in Vegas. You're going to care most about whether you can trust them. So there's trust in integrity, there's trust in people's aptitude. But like the idea of teamwork and camaraderie was a huge part of what I learned from the blackjack days.
Jeff, you did this when you were in college. Would you do this again at this age?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If I had the chance to do it again, like if the conditions were similar to how they were back then. I mean, I actually did a fair amount of it after college. It was, from 1994 to 2001, so 7 years, 6 of which I wasn't even in college.
All right, let's turn to your book, The House Advantage, Playing the Odds to Win Big in Business. You focus on sports franchises and business and how they could use statistics and data. And I do get a sense that especially small businesses really kind of skip over that part because they're so busy trying to just make sales. How do you talk to businesses about the importance of spending money and putting the right policies in place to get the data you need on what works and doesn't?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a hard one just because it's a big investment. Like, to be really data-driven, it takes time because you need to collect the data first, and that can be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year project. The biggest thing that I try to do and that I talk about in my book is really how to make better decisions, unemotional decisions, by using data at some level, right? You're not necessarily going to be able to have terabytes of data to make a decision if you're a small business, but you're going to be able to use data in a way that you don't make emotional decisions, that you don't overreact to something that happened, or that you don't look at things the wrong way. So the lessons of overcoming emotional and cognitive biases are really more the lessons that I talk about than specifically becoming, data-driven, where you have, reams and terabytes of data to make decisions.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because the emotions sometimes overcome sort of the math data in front of you, don't they?
Well, I mean, the thing about gambling and sports, which is what I talk a lot about, is they're both typically very emotional things where people make emotional decisions. And so what I like to think is that because you use data and you become more rational, you can overcome these emotional biases and gain advantages in both sports and in business. And if you look at, the teams that have done well, say the Red Sox or the Patriots or things like that, they use data to overcome emotional decisions.
Well, the former general manager of the Red Sox, of course, was very, very big on using data and really helped push the league in that direction. Finally, because this evolves around math, do you get the sense that people are leaving school these days without having basic math skills?
I don't know. I mean, I think that in general, the education in our country is in real turmoil, and I think that that's, math certainly is at the center of it. I mean, I think people are afraid of math, and math is becoming a bigger and bigger part of what we do, so it should probably be the opposite. The biggest thing right now is that people are hopefully are learning skills and not necessarily focused on, going to the right schools and that kind of thing. But education, I think, is a big problem in our country right now anyways.
Jeff Ma, CEO of 10Xer. For anyone who's ever been at the casino, you're a hero to many. Thank you so much from San Francisco.
Thanks.
Ahead, separated at birth, Janet Yellen and someone else. Also, is it a good idea to seek dating advice from a bunch of 9-year-olds? Her favorite person of the day is ahead here on Horace Xchange.
Mainstream news has covered all of the issues of the world, which are like this, through a very narrow lens. And at Arise News, we do things different. We cover every culture, every angle. Our mission is to go to these places, to these communities, whether they're in Africa, whether they're in Europe, Asia, the United States, the Caribbean. And we're going to find these stories, and we're going to tell them to our audience. Stories that they've probably never heard of before, and stories that they'll find interesting and engaging.
Time now for Liquid Lunch, things that make us want to drink. Today, a special separated at birth edition. You'll recall Federal Reserve Chairwoman Janet Yellen gave the commencement speech at New York University on Wednesday. There she is. That got us thinking. With her wearing that purple outfit, could she have been separated at birth from, say, Grimace from McDonald's? Just asking. We've made Grimace the chairperson of the Federal Reserve. And that takes us to our favorite person of the day, when we pick one person who grabbed our attention and not for the right reasons. Today, it is a New York City 4th grade teacher who has been fired for asking for dating advice from her 9-year-old students. Cassandra Fearing reportedly told her class that she was dating 2 men at the same time and needed advice on how to handle the tricky situation. Well, there's no better dating resource than 4th graders. Investigators say Fearing used the kids to act out scenarios where the kids played her and she played her 2 boyfriends. The class did provide her with advice telling her to break up with the younger of the 2 men. The New York Department of Education found out about the unusual teaching assignment and fired her. Fearing, who was a substitute teacher and aspiring actress, is appealing this decision, saying it was all G-rated and there was nothing inappropriately done. Try telling that to the dumped suitor, whose romantic gestures were squashed by kids who haven't even reached puberty yet. What do they possibly know? And so Cassandra Fearing is our favorite person of the day. Next, raising an MVP, the mother of basketball superstar Kevin Durant joins us next here on Arise Xchange.
I don't think that television news in the United States reflects the diversity of the world. I don't think it does a great job of even reflecting diversity of the United States.
When you are watching TV, you don't really see a lot of different cultures. There are plenty of other places that people might not even know about.
We are living in a global culture, and you cannot hide news that is happening when there's so much social media.
Arise News, every culture, every angle.
It was a powerful message that resonated with millions of sports fans and moms around the world. NBA star Kevin Durant's touching words about his mother in his acceptance speech as most valuable player in the National Basketball League.
We wasn't supposed to be here. You made us believe. You kept us off the street, put clothes on our backs, food on the table. When you didn't eat, you made sure we ate. You went to sleep hungry. You sacrificed for us. You the real MVP.
That certainly was a nice Mother's Day gift. And in the words of her son Kevin, the real MVP, Mama Durant, is here. Inspirational speaker Wanda Pratt joins us now from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, to tell us what it really takes to raise a leader. It is an honor to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Your
It's an honor to be here.
reaction when your son said that on national TV, because that says quite a lot for a mom.
Yes, it does. I knew that he would mention me, but I didn't know that it would be to that magnitude. And when he called me the real MVP, I just couldn't hold back my tears any longer.
What is your message to basically single moms who are raising children in always a very, very difficult environment? Because obviously you've had great success here, but I have a feeling, based on how you raised him, Kevin would be doing fine with whatever he chose.
Yes, I do believe that. The first thing I would say is try to be the example that you want your children to be. Live upright before your children. Encourage them to work hard, push them, teach them what dedication is by your example and also by your words. And whatever they become, whether it be an NBA MVP or a postal worker or a CEO, whatever it is, they will do their best.
How did you deliver that message to your children as they grew up in Washington, D.C., in a suburb, surrounded by obviously a lot of negative temptations, and we hear about them all the time?
Well, what I did is I made myself an active force in their lives. I was always there. I knew who their friends were. I knew their friends' parents. I knew the places that they frequented. And so I made myself active in their lives. I was always there. They may call me a hovering mother, but I was always there.
And you had a message that I read that if you're going to do something, you need to do it to the fullest. And an interesting side part of that is that expect some failure. That's very tough for a kid to hear, but it sounds like it's a necessary message.
Yes, it is. I think no matter what obstacles you face, I just don't believe in whining about life. And in life, there are ups and downs. And the character is built inside of a kid based on what you show them and how they deal with those obstacles. And so that's what I try to do. And that's what mothers all over the world try to do all the time. So I don't think our situation is really uncommon or I'm uncommon.
Seeing your son as successful as he is in the NBA, are you concerned a little bit about sort of the atmosphere that we see in professional sports today?
Well, no, I'm not. Kevin is growing into a fine young man. He's still a young man growing into the man that he will want to be. It's just a process. But they're young. I mean, he's still a young man. And so we just need to give the guys room to be young men, just like we have room to be young.
How did you decide to sort of take the inspirational speaker role? Because you were a postal worker. And you are obviously changing careers, and you're terrific at it. But how did that process happen?
Well, it happened just assisting Kevin in one of his giveaways a few years ago. I was asked to present the award that he had given to this nonprofit organization. And since then, I've been asked to speak to women in like situation as mine, and it seems that they've been inspired by my words. And one of the things that I try to do is I try not to hide my life experiences. I'm not ashamed of them. And a lot of people are going through today what I've gone through in the past. And so sometimes I think the words are inspiring. At least that's what I'm told.
Well, we have just 20 seconds left. The life's experiences is really key here. No one should be embarrassed by them, right, if you can fix them.
Right. And I think we all go through ups and downs in life. And so, that's the commonality that we all share. It doesn't matter the circumstance or the situation that brings it about, but it's just how we get through them, I think, is the common thread between us all.
Wanda Pratt, thank you so much. Honor to have you on today. And thanks everyone for watching Arise Exchange. I'm Andrew Schmertz. Good evening.